What if the most repeated claim about Meghan Markle was never something she actually said, but something the world decided she must have meant? Pause on that for a second. Because right now, across comment sections, thumbnails, group chats, and late-night scrolling sessions, the same sentence keeps popping up in different forms. She finally admitted it. The truth is out. We all knew it. And yet, when you go searching for the moment where Meghan supposedly confessed, the quote isn't exist. The quote isn't there. The admission never happened. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. So why does it feel real? That question is where this story actually begins. At 44, Meghan Markle isn't breaking news because of a new interview or a shocking confession. She's breaking news because of something far more powerful in the digital age, a rumor that refuses to die, a claim repeated so often that it starts to feel like fact. And once that happens, the truth almost doesn't matter anymore. Think about it. How many times have you heard that Meghan was married more times than officially acknowledged? How many videos casually say it as if it's settled history? How many thumbnails confidently declare that Prince Harry wasn't her second husband, without ever showing proof? And here's the uncomfortable part. Most people repeating it aren't lying. They genuinely believe it. That's what makes this story dangerous. And fascinating, because this isn't just about Meghan. It's about how the internet builds a narrative, feeds it, and then demands that the person at the center of it answer for something they never actually said. Short, punchy truth. Rumors don't need evidence anymore. They need momentum. And Meghan has been momentum-rich since the moment she entered the royal orbit. From actress to duchess. From outsider to global headline. From fairy tale to fallout. Every chapter of her life has been watched, dissected, reframed, and sometimes rewritten entirely. And when people already think they know who you are, they start filling in the blanks themselves. Here's where the curiosity gap opens. Some viewers swear they've heard Meghan say it herself. Others insist it was exposed years ago. A few claim the information was scrubbed, but when you trace the story back, you don't find a confession. You find fragments, misquoted interviews, old blog posts taken out of context, anonymous claims repeated until they sound official. And silence becomes gasoline. Because Meghan doesn't respond to every rumor, she never has. And in the modern attention economy, silence isn't neutrality. Silence is interpreted as confirmation. Ask yourself this: if someone accused you of something untrue and you ignored it, would that mean it was real? Or would it just mean you were tired of explaining yourself? That tension is the emotional engine of this entire story. This matters now because the narrative has entered a new phase. It's no longer, did this happen? It's, why hasn't she denied it? And that's a trap with no clean exit. Deny it and you amplify it. Ignore it and it grows anyway. And then there's Prince Harry. Because the rumor doesn't stop with Meghan. It drags him in too, recasting their relationship, undermining its legitimacy, turning a marriage into a punchline for people who already decided how this story ends. But here's the thing, no one says out loud. The internet didn't need proof. It needed a character. And Meghan fit the role too perfectly. A woman who reinvented herself. A woman who crossed class lines. A woman who didn't follow the script. Those stories always attract punishment. Always attract suspicion. Always attract myths dressed up as truth. So when people say she finally admitted it, what they're really saying is, this is the version of her we're comfortable believing. And that raises a far more unsettling question. If the admission never happened, who actually created it? It always starts quietly, not with a headline, not with a confession, a forum post, a passing line in a video that says, people forget she was married before. Then another voice adds, actually, more than once. And just like that, a seed is planted. Here's the shocking part. Most viral rumors don't explode because someone proves them. They explode because no one stops them early. This one didn't begin in a courtroom record or an official biography. It began in fragments, old interviews clipped down to seconds, blog posts from years ago reread through a hostile lens, anonymous accounts claiming insider knowledge with nothing attached but confidence. Confidence is powerful. Confidence sounds like certainty. And when certainty enters the room, logic quietly leaves. Ask yourself this: when was the first time you heard the claim that Meghan had been married more than publicly acknowledged? Do you remember a source? Or do you remember the feeling that, Everyone already knows this. That's how narratives work online. Familiarity replaces verification. The earliest versions of this rumor didn't even say married. They said serious relationships, then long-term partners, then husbands. Each retelling sharpened the language. Each retelling made it more dramatic. Because drama travels faster than nuance. Short, punchy reality. A boring truth doesn't go viral. Add to that the timing. The rumor gained traction during moments when public sentiment was already polarized, when people were choosing sides, when confirmation bias was hungry. If you already disliked Meghan, the story felt believable. If you sympathized with her, the story felt absurd. And the internet thrives on that split. Here's a contradiction most people miss. The same critics who accuse Meghan of hiding things also accuse her of oversharing. She's either too secretive or too attention-seeking, depending on which version fits the argument that day. That alone should make you pause. Because real investigations don't change standards mid-sentence. Another surprising detail? Many videos repeating the claim don't even mean to accuse. They repeat it casually, as background noise, as context. After all, she'd been married before. That offhand tone is what cements it. It sounds established. It sounds settled. But when journalists and fact-checkers actually went looking for evidence, they hit a wall. No records, no verified statements, no admission, just repetition. Repetition is persuasive, especially when paired with silence. Silence is interpreted as strategy, as guilt, as arrogance, rarely as exhaustion. And Meghan's silence has been constant, not defensive, not reactive, which, in the attention economy, is treated as suspicious behavior. The expectation now is immediate clarification, immediate denial, immediate performance of innocence. But what if the silence wasn't strategy at all? What if it was something simpler? Someone who learned early that responding only feeds the machine. Here's where the emotional layer deepens. This rumor doesn't survive because people care about marriage records. It survives because it taps into something older, a discomfort with women who reshape their identities, a suspicion of reinvention, a belief that a woman's past must be fixed, traceable, and permanently accessible. And when she refuses to narrate it for public consumption, the audience writes the script themselves. Ask yourself honestly, if Meghan had laughed it off in an interview, would it have died? Or would it have been clipped, twisted, and used as proof anyway? That's the trap. The more people demanded an answer, the more valuable the rumor became. Content creators built views on it. Comment sections turned it into lore. And eventually, people stopped asking if it was true. They started asking why it wasn't being admitted. That shift is everything, because once a rumor reaches that stage, it no longer needs evidence. It needs a villain, a mystery, and an audience willing to connect dots that were never meant to touch. But here's the turning point no one expected. When you trace the claim all the way back, past the thumbnails, past the comments, past the recycled talking points, you don't find a secret marriage. You find a pattern. And that pattern reveals who actually benefits from keeping this story alive. Here's the uncomfortable question no one asks out loud. What if the rumor survived not because it was convincing, but because it was useful? Because once you move past the surface claim, the number of marriages, the supposed admission, the missing quote, you start to see something deeper at work. This story wasn't built on documents. It was built on identity, on discomfort, on a public need to put someone back into a box after they refused to stay in one. From the beginning, Meghan Markle was framed as a contradiction. Actress, but not Hollywood enough. Royal, but not traditional enough. Confident, but labeled calculating. Private, but accused of hiding things. No matter what she did, it could be flipped. That contradiction is the fuel. Because when people can't reconcile who you are with who they think you should be, they start inventing explanations. Extra marriages, secret pasts, hidden timelines. Not because they're proven, but because they feel emotionally satisfying. Short, punchy truth. Complexity makes people uncomfortable. Look at how the rumor is usually framed. It's rarely just about Meghan. It's almost always tied to legitimacy, to trust, to whether her relationship with Prince Harry is real, equal, or honest. The claim isn't about paperwork, it's about power, about whether she deserves the position she occupies, and that's where the myth does its real work. Because once you suggest that Harry wasn't her second husband, you subtly undermine the relationship itself. You turn it into something suspect, transactional, less romantic, less sincere. It's a narrative shortcut, one that bypasses evidence and goes straight for emotional impact. Ask yourself this: why does this rumor almost never come with dates, names, or records? Why is it always vague? People say, it's been alleged. She admitted it somewhere. Vagueness isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Specifics can be checked. Feelings can't. Here's another contradiction worth sitting with. Meghan has spoken openly about reinvention, about changing paths, about leaving parts of her old life behind. In most public figures, that would be praised. In her case, it became suspicious, as if transformation itself were evidence of deception. And that taps into something cultural. We love comeback stories, but only when we control the narrative. Only when the person apologizes, explains, and stays grateful. Meghan didn't do that. She moved forward without asking permission, and that unsettled people. So the internet filled the silence with speculation. Another emotional beat that matters. The rumor gained strength precisely because Meghan didn't center her personal history in interviews. She spoke about causes, boundaries, and media pressure instead. To some audiences, that felt evasive. To others, it felt intentional. Either way, it was interpreted, not understood, and interpretation is dangerous territory. Because once a story becomes symbolic, facts stop being the point. The rumor became shorthand for a larger accusation, that Meghan isn't who she claims to be. And once that accusation takes hold, no denial will ever be enough. Pause and think about this. If someone is determined to believe you're hiding something, what could you possibly say to change their mind? That's why this chapter matters, because the persistence of this rumor tells us less about Meghan's past and more about the public's expectations of women who step outside prescribed roles, especially women who marry into institutions built on tradition and hierarchy. This was never just about marriage. It was about control of the story. And here's the twist most people miss. The moment Meghan finally addressed the broader issue, not the rumor itself, but the exhaustion of being constantly redefined by strangers, many people didn't hear relief. They heard avoidance. They didn't hear honesty. They heard strategy, which means the goalposts moved again. And that leads directly to the final reckoning. Because when you look closely at what Meghan actually said and what she very deliberately did not, you realize the so-called admission everyone talks about was never about numbers, names, or husbands at all. It was about something far more revealing. And that's where this story finally turns. Here's the line that stops everything cold. Meghan Markle never admitted to what the internet accused her of, but she did admit something far more unsettling. Not about marriages, not about timelines, not about numbers. She admitted that she lost control of her own story. Let that sink in, because when people say she finally confessed, what they're reacting to isn't a revelation of facts. It's a moment of emotional exposure, a moment where the mask slipped just enough for people to project whatever truth they wanted onto it. Over the years, Meghan has spoken carefully about being misunderstood, about watching narratives form around her that she didn't recognize, about seeing her intentions rewritten, her silence weaponized, her past flattened into caricature. That's the part people skip over. That's the part that doesn't make good thumbnails. And yet, that's the only part that's real. Think about it. If she had truly made the admission everyone claims, it would be everywhere. Clips, transcripts, headlines from reputable outlets, not recycled phrases, and secondhand certainty. Not everyone knows. Facts don't need defending this hard. But feelings do. Here's the emotional payoff most people weren't prepared for. The story was never about proving something shocking. It was about realizing how easily a person can be turned into a symbol, and how difficult it is to reclaim humanity once that happens. When Meghan talks about exhaustion, she isn't talking about the press alone. She's talking about the impossible standard placed on her. Explain yourself, but don't overshare. Be open, but not defensive. Be silent, but not evasive. No matter what she chose, it would be framed as confirmation of someone else's theory. And then there's Prince Harry, because the rumor didn't just follow her. It followed him too, casting him as naive, as misled, as secondary in his own marriage. That's not accidental. It reframes their relationship into something people can dismiss more easily. Something less legitimate, something easier to mock. Ask yourself honestly, if this were truly about marriage records, would it still be circulating years later? Or is it about something else entirely? The truth is uncomfortable. The rumor survives because it satisfies an emotional appetite. It reassures people who need Meghan to be deceptive in order for their worldview to remain intact. It gives structure to resentment. It turns complexity into conspiracy. And here's the quiet irony. The louder the rumor gets, the more it proves the very thing Meghan has been saying all along. That once a narrative takes hold, facts struggle to compete. So what did she actually admit? She admitted that the story people believe about her isn't hers anymore. That's not scandal. That's loss. And maybe that's why this rumor won't die. Because letting it go would require admitting something else. That we participated. That we repeated. That we filled in blanks without evidence because it felt easier than sitting with uncertainty. Before you click away, ask yourself one final question. How many other stories do we accept, not because they're proven, but because they've been told so many times they feel true? Because the next time a headline says everyone suspected this, it's worth asking who everyone really is and who benefits from you believing it. And here's the part that should make you pause. This isn't the last chapter in Meghan and Harry's story. Not even close. Another narrative is already forming. Another interpretation is already circulating. And the next claim spreading right now may be even harder to separate from fiction.